Uh, Hey guys, so I'm going to be making a video about um, what is home in the modern age. So I am currently a I'm currently in Seattle. I'm doing some research for UW, and I've been living as a digital nomad for maybe the past 4 or 5 years. I may stop in one place for maybe a year or so to do something like go to school, or I may have some type of contract there. But for the most part, I'm just traveling from place to place. So the question that I'll ask is, what is home in the modern age? So I think that throughout humanity, home has had a variety of meanings. As nomads, home was the community. So no matter where you were, you found home with the group of people who were closest to you. And if we switch to the village or the town style of society, then home essentially became your piece of property. So the idea that home was the community, but it wasn't based off of you traveling. It was based off of your position relative to the community, meaning where your home was located, what you were known for, etc. And as things became more globalized, home began to mean your region. So it wasn't necessarily about your property anymore. It was just about where the majority of your family was located. So let's say you lived in, uh, major city your entire life. You could move 30 minutes away to the suburbs and you could still, be considered living in your hometown. So all of these considered, home hasn't changed much for the majority of humanity as we know it. And I think that with digital nomad, um, home becomes something much more intangible. It's almost tied to the eighth, uh, in a sense. Sometimes it feels like home becomes your ability to support yourself. It becomes your ability to sort of take care of yourself and assure that you're all right throughout time. If we go back to different mass migration movements, um, I think that we'll begin to see that home was still with the family in an interesting way. So if you look, for example, at movements like the mass black migration from the north to no from the south to the north, right? People were moving for the specific reason of finding better roles, and a lot of the times they were bringing their families with them. And you could do the same exact thing for the Ellis Island migration, where people were traveling across the sea with the entire purpose being to create a better life for their family, etc. So I think it's something really interesting with digital nomads is that it's sort of no longer like this. For the majority of us, there is no goal of family. Um, yeah, the people who participate in this, some of them may bring spouses or meet spouses along the way, but I think for the majority of us, as I've seen it, it's largely a solitary undertaking, and it's filled with a lot of heartfelt goodbyes of people that you've met in these spaces along the way. And it kind of makes me think, okay, what's the purpose of being a digital nomad? Um, I would like to think that it's about the experience of different cultures, the idea of not being tied down into one place, and constantly keeping your mind busy. Uh, it it sort of becomes the archetype of the wanderer, right? So he who goes from place to place, observing and never really planting roots. Um, the ancient philosopher who fills books with thoughts and dies a desolate death in a land unknown. And it sounds romantic, but as a digital nomad, I don't really know if that's what you actually do. Um, as strange as it sounds, you never really make a life in these places. And it goes back to the original question of the video of what's home. I think in this era, home becomes your support system. So, uh, what is your support system? Well, once again, it's your ability to take care of yourself. It's your job. it's your accounts, it's your communication channels, it's your news sources. It's all of these things that keep you busy day to day. And when you boil all of that down, it essentially becomes just a device. It's your laptop. So as a digital nomad, I could go anywhere in the world, and as long as I have my laptop, my days proceed as normal forever and always. And it's a very odd feeling because when you go to these different places, you end up doing the same thing. You know, you're sitting in a co-working space or a cafe, and you're sort of fading into this sea of, locals and other digital nomads just like you. Then you look up and your time in that place is over. So I feel like in this sense, we're not really acting as the wandering archetype. We're not acting like the philosopher. We're not learning anything. Uh, the majority of the travel, I feel, becomes superficial because you do the same thing in all these places. After a while, everything just sort of blobs together. And it becomes a lot less about the culture because how much coffee can you drink, right? It doesn't matter what language the person across the counter speaks. If you're from an English speaking country, the majority of people with these co-working spaces are going to speak English. Someone is going to understand enough English for you to order something. Um, Whatever place you're renting, they're going to understand English. And it's very difficult to get immersed into the culture because you're tied to your laptop all day. It's kind of like you can't survive without it. So I think this is why digital nomads sort of age out after a couple of years. Um, and the aging out doesn't come from travel at all. Uh, I believe one could perpetually travel. And it's not about finances either. You learn to budget really well after you've been to a few different countries, and you're also turned on to a lot of different opportunities from being in these different spaces. I think the key to draw away from this lifestyle are the relationships. You can build great relationships by becoming really, really close with others. But ultimately, you both know that you have to leave soon, and that sort of becomes the crux of the relationship. This sort of like unspoken interaction rule that determines how far you guys actually go. And I feel like every digital nomad sort of starts with this very gung ho idea that, you know, they're gonna take just their laptop and they'll be able to take on the world, right? They're gonna be able to do all of these different explorations and they're gonna learn about all of these different cultures and about themselves and so forth and so forth. And I think, look, we start off with wanting three things. We start off with wanting to learn more about ourselves. We started with wanting to explore different cultures and become more well-rounded, more well-rounded. I think out of the three things, one of them is true. I think you do learn a lot about yourself. Um, you see how you are when you're truly anonymous in a place. Like in your hometown or, even in your home country, I would say there's a certain level of self-awareness and this sort of measuredness that you have. When you're in a foreign place and people are looking at you like an alien, you sort of almost lose that sense of self um, in a way. And you almost become an observer into how you're interacting with these people. For the idea is that they have no point in reference of what a normal personality is or, how people are perceived inside of your culture. So you just, I don't know, it's a very, very strange scenario. You literally are just being yourself. And it sounds, very, very mundane, but it's yourself without any guards. And as you feel this happening a couple of times, you begin to notice a pattern. And it's like the facades of all of your former interactions are being dropped. And with no reference point, or a reason to put up this, cultified persona that you developed over, the last however many years at home, you end up seeing your true self in a way. And you learn how to deal with relationships when they're forming and when they break. So